Welcome to William the Bastard Reveals. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit. There's going to be some background noise from noise harassment, people encouraging children in the neighborhood to get really loud. There's probably going to be some segments of this that gets cut off abruptly due to remote pulse weapons and zaps on my camera equipment. I'm here to talk about gang stalking and the history of my own gang stalking, when it began, and some of the claims the gang stalkers have made as they play their identity games. They disclose several organizations and individuals allegedly that are involved in my gang stalk. This happens to all of us TIs, the identity games we get through voice to skull and otherwise forms of remote neural monitoring, and etc., regular gang stalking, for example. Back around 1999, 2000, I was employed by a company that I had been a long-term employee, been working with them since 1994. During the 90s, I was pretty outspoken and had some political and spiritual beliefs that probably weren't accepted very well by a lot of people. I may have turned some heads. I had a problem with certain issues, and I would stand up against the people that created those issues for themselves and others, and I'd directly confront them, not in a physical manner, but I certainly wasn't afraid to voice my opinion for what I felt was right and what many other people would probably agree with me is right. The place I worked at had other employees that were military or ex-military of various branches. I'd had some exposure before to people involved in government ops, and had some assessments that weren't very popular with authoritarian enforcers and people involved in the government, local, state, and national. Also had an episode with the Walmart Corporation where I purchased several $100s of hardware for computerized hardware that would assist me in my writings that I was engaged in at that time, word processors and whatnot, and the equipment was faulty. I tried to return it to get my money back after returning it and exchanging it and getting other faulty pieces of equipment. As you can hear in the background, my harassment's going on right now. That's how retarded it is. These kids are completely innocent out here. They're just playing, but they're being encouraged to make a lot of loud noise. I want to get back on track. Where I was employed, there was a lot of poor air quality, poor ventilation. People were coming down sick. People were getting very ill. People were vomiting, having respiratory issues. There was a large amount of what is called cutting oil in the air and no ventilation in our building whatsoever. It was becoming a very real health problem and issue because I was outspoken and people knew this. I was encouraged to be the one to bring it to a person, a good boss of mine who was also an owner in the company, who I felt was a good man and would probably do whatever he could to correct the issue. Much to my chagrin and surprise, when I addressed it to him, I did not get the response at all that I was expecting. In fact, I got a very adverse response. It was almost reprimandal and very nasty. I tried a couple more times to address the issue with the same result, ultimately to no avail of correcting the problem. Eventually, in time, I was kind of forced out the door, encouraged to resign. People people begin to report the issue, I to OSHA, others to the EPA, and they wound up getting fined a fair sum of money, and being under investigation for things, and soil quality, all kinds of stuff. A lot of this I didn't have direct involvement with. However, I was the one who took the fall. I was the fall guy as far as the whistleblowing went. And as you can imagine, when you whistleblow and when you're involved with those that do whistleblow, you're going to be incriminated quite a bit, and you're going to make some enemies. I felt I did the right thing, and a lot of people hated me for that. So I was no stranger to enemies. Also, a certain individual that I warned not to commit a crime proceeded to commit a crime that would be very offensive, even now, socially, and wound up doing more time because somebody else had actually ratted him out. But that person had connections to me. I wasn't the one that did it. However, once again, poor old Will takes the fall. And it was about that time, around 2000, that just after all of these episodes and events took place, that my gang stalking began. Now, at that time, I was unaware of it. I was unaware of how gang stalking worked, what it was. I knew there was remote neural monitoring back then and energy pulse weapons. The remote neural not being as powerful or readily available to everyone as it is today. And of course, microwave energy from towers was not as common back then because cell towers were a lot less present, and internet had not expanded to the extent of social networks that we have today. And, just recently in certain rural towns, even now in certain areas, they're still installing cell towers. Back then it was more Gwen towers and old school towers that delivered these frequencies and attacks, voice to skull, not so upfront like you can do today off a cell phone app. Anyone can purchase. So software was being, as always, completely revamped, getting better, stronger all the time. And over time, that's why so many TIs are experiencing these phenomenon on a much larger scale now in the last 5 or 6 years than back then when my gang stalking had first occurred. I feel that I do know some of the individuals that were involved in my initial gang stalk circle, as circles will pass and change members on down to the next circle, to the next circle, to the next circle, setting you up to look incriminating to the people they try to enlist in your gang stalking, making them think the worst of you, or making them think you've done some imagined wrong to them, to pull them into the activity of directly harassing you and indirectly harassing you remotely. My first marriage, me and my wife get along great now. Me and my ex-wife get along really good now. We're friends. Back then, suddenly, our relationship took a sudden turn. Not long after the whistleblowing incidents and other issues that I had. Slowly, our lives began to decline. The amount of money I made declined. My ability to keep us afloat declined. It was very rough times. She was engaged in jobs that she lost, a career with a reputable company that she wound up losing due to stress and other issues that were occurring, and just strange little events. Eventually our marriage split up, and on September 12th, the day after September 11th, the full addressment hearing, how our divorce was going to be set up and go down, was heard. And on that day, both of us were kind of buffaloed into accepting terms we would not really want to go by. Otherwise, there were going to be repercussions that we did not want to answer to. So we were more or less threatened to have a very bitter experience between us due to local government involvement. And it just seemed like there were wheels turning the bus at that time that were, not in the favor of me or her, and especially our daughter at that time. I've never been charged with domestic violence, never had no proof of that, never hurt anybody, but yet the county government had me under what they call a CPO, a Civil Protection Order, which lasted for years, which complicated visitation and shared parenting and the future of our relationship. And ultimately, it was just a really bad separation. Eventually, over time, my whole philosophy in life was changed due to the unfair treatment that I was given. My outlook on life kind of changed. My hope for humanity kind of changed, as anyone's would after going through such a bitter event. And, it wasn't long after that I lost my mother. Me and my new wife got together early on in our relationship, and slowly both of our lives, even though she was a new partner, continued to go in more or less a downward spiral. We would get so far and then have to restart over because of problems, just through rumor control, stuff that would start up, issues with the courts. I had to adopt my baby sister at that time, who was underage after my mother's death, and continue to finish raising her. So it was a really rough period, and no matter what, as time went on, it seemed like the people running the stalks did not want me to progress past a certain point or obtain more than, or achieve a certain level of success. And every time I'd come close to breaking through that, they would once again reduce me back through tactics and setups, which were definitely more local and unnoticeable at that time, and not so high-tech as what us TIs go through today. But as time went on, of course, that increased. Once I had got to a certain point, I was doing really good for a long time. And it seemed like, when I moved to this new area I'm at now, maybe my stalkers didn't know my location or didn't have ties to it yet. Or had people in place in this area that would pick up another stalking circle against me. And so for a couple years I had a fair amount of success, and even in bands, and Parable Heresy was a very good band to be a part of. Blue Diamond Little Bastards, ultimately, they all split up. I'm not blaming all my problems on these organized stalks, but I do definitely see the repeated occurrence of this happening. Not just to me, but to other TIs and their lives, where they can't progress past certain points. By 2008, I think that they managed to make their way out here. Got into a high-stress event where I had to take a couple months off work, medical leave due to an injury, and I believe they affected personal relationships and business relationships due to this occurrence, and eventually pulled me back into a negative frame of mind, where I wasn't making the strides I needed to succeed as much. Me being a fighter, I never let this got me completely down. I continued to struggle, and continued to move ahead with things as best I could. And it's amazing that me and my family have pulled through as much of this as we have, because due to the same type of tactics and repeated events, this has put an immense amount of pressure on me and my second wife's marriage as well. And, not to mention the stress of the results of these harassments upon other family members, including my children, that we've all endured. As of June of last year, in 2012, I began to get my first tortures, receiving of tortures, and more noticeable. It was about that time I started noticing the mind control, hypnosis, and remote neural monitoring. Of course, I did not know what any of these things were until the middle of 2012, last summer, when I did a investigative research on these events and how many other people were affected by them. And that's when I was able to tie together the approximate time and the approximate people that initiated the circles of gang stalking. I believe that these people had ties to agencies within the government that funded these things, if not the mafia or a organized criminal group, and that is what it's being funded by. Once I noticed that I was being monitored on a level, that's when the tortures began. Before that, they didn't have reason to torture me. I hadn't noticed anything. I noticed that when other TIs I've talked to, a lot of them don't start having torture problems until they notice they've heard someone speaking voice to skull, or through a frequency, if they picked up on it inadvertently, or if they, like myself, witnessed a crime that they don't want to go public with yet, and witness something that they weren't supposed to see. That is my case also, and it was also just about a month later that the tortures began after witnessing this last year. So, a lot of this has been inadvertent, and I haven't really meant to be involved in these situations or people, or with people that are involved in situations, or to witness such said things. But it just worked out like that, and unfortunately that is what has caused me to be a target, not only my own outspoken political views and religious views, but also the fact that I have witnessed these things, and to certain people, that's definitely not cool. Moving onward, okay, in the process of voice-to-skull psych-outs and remote neural monitoring, you will have your attackers play so many different identity games, and even if the people they mention aren't involved, they'll pick the people that you would most likely believe to be involved in something like this, and scapegoat them. More or less, they're abusing people's identities to make you think they're involved in this, when these people probably actually are not involved at all. So I'm not directly accusing anybody that I mention here, except that I'm going to mention this so that the agencies and the people that have been mentioned to me during my psych outs can know that their identities are being abused by the people that are committing the gang stalking, the remote neural monitoring, and the remote hypnosis tactics against me, as well as the noise psych outs. Basically, my gang stalkers, especially those currently active in the stalk. Some of the identities these people claim to be are absolutely ridiculous. Some of them could be plausible. Some of them may not be involved at all, even though they are plausible people to be involved, or agencies. One of them is the Church of Scientology. For whatever reason, disagrees with me and my viewpoints politically and otherwise. The Aryan Alliance, the Aryan Brotherhood, because I'm recognizing of European customs and traditions, but don't support racism. The Mexican Mafia, the Satanic Church and Church of Satan for whatever reason, even though I've never applied to either or been a member of either one. Sometimes they'll claim to be them. They've claimed to be the Church of Christ in opposition to that, believe it or not. Of course, the old mainstays, the big agencies, the NSA, CIA, FBI, Air Force, Army, military intelligence, and the Defense Department, Georgetown Police Department, the prosecutor's office here locally in Brown County, Ohio, agencies involved with my insurance plan and branched off of it, Geezy Screw Machine Company, Air Evac, Brown County, Christ Hospital, and Christ Hospitals of Cincinnati, Ohio. Some of the individuals that they've claimed to be using voice apps and other methods. Many of them rivals or alleged rivals of myself. However, I'm not directly accusing any of these agencies or people. I'm going to proceed. One of them, the people they say they are, is Kevin Richards. Another one, Mike Richardson. Another one, Adam Kearney. Another one, Telly Cools, Monica Frost, Nikki Lewis, Vanessa Lewis, and many others. Some other people that my remote neural monitors and voice-to-skull harassers have claimed are involved in my Gang Stalk are members of my own family. They'll often do this to turn people against their family members and friends, girlfriends, etc. To stir as much trouble as possible in your life, and to give them a sensation of power and dominance over you. I want to let you guys know also they have ways of infiltrating the home via surveillance equipment that is uncanny and not very well known. Applications which allow you to see through walls. Even in a animation format or a vague visual layout. Some of their objectives are to stir reactions out of you. Sometimes they get cocky and claim to some TIs they actually get paid for doing such things as this. For getting you to do a certain thing or respond a certain way or use certain language. So they've claimed to be various people, my daughters, my wife, my cousin Arthur Ritchie, just all kinds of different claims. Do you necessarily believe these? Hell no, don't believe anything these people say. They're not a reliable source of information whatsoever. And the more you continually put a complete lack of faith into anything they tell you, whether they prove to be correct in some instances or not, the more you'll see that they're full of shit. And they have absolutely no credibility worth investing any trust in. And you cannot believe anything until you have absolute, beyond any shadow of a doubt, conclusive proof. And you better double check that, because these people are damn good at psych outs. Okay, they're really good at implicating other people in your life, even if that means infiltrating them through methods that, people aren't familiar with yet. Such as getting into the people around the targets to get them to say certain phrases or act in certain manners to further psych you out. Okay, don't think that these remote neural monitors can't do this. I know a lot of people lack any investment of faith or credibility in the experiences us TIs go through. I'm going to tell them now. In time, even you, and your family and those around you, if not already, have been subject to remote neural technology. And who knows exactly how long the public at large has. So, it's important to keep in mind open possibilities. Currently involved in my gang stalk, I think I know exactly who at least some of the perpetrators are. Absolutely. And when they're nearby, it makes it much easier to deliver voice to skull, other forms of psych outs, local and remote, and allows for a lot of say microwave guns and stuff like that, pulse weapons, to be delivered when needed by the gang stalkers. It's always better to be closer from their perspective, and when they feel they've lost a sense of control, they'll get really angry, vindictive, try to punish you, threaten you, blackmail you. My advice is to keep fighting ahead. This is stuff that we have to endure every day. So just keep your chin up and don't give up. Continue to persevere and until you get ultimate inconclusiveness of evidence against an actual perpetrator that you can prosecute, which some of us are fortunate enough to have, and just wait for better ones to keep giving themselves away. Tonight, even as I tape this, my harassers have been loud. And how these systems of delivery are given to us. Some of them are done through biological agents in our foods and drugs that we ingest. Some people believe this. Most of this is done by frequency, from my experience. A large amount of it. And the way that they track us, can be kinetically through being able to hack into the microphones and video cams of laptops and computers or online devices and phones that we've used to communicate on, and basically isolating the heartbeat and the breath and other things to upload onto a network, which is just like any other cellular or digital signal delivered via satellite. And of course, only the people that have passwords have access to the networks. They have these various methods of tracking us, as well as implanted transceivers and radio reactive devices, heat signature implants, which trip off heat signals as you approach certain areas of your neighborhood or home or wherever have you, your property or your place of employment, to let someone know of your approach, or to trigger automatically certain microphone, speakers, equipment, etc., that allow you to be psyched out further. So there's all these different methods. This is a very horrible thing for any individual to have to endure, for any family to have to undergo. In my case, there's a lot of local harassment as well as remote harassment, and you can hear a lot of local noise some of the time. Various local people involved, I'm not sure of their identities. They try to disguise them well. I suspect it could be neighbors or people that, as I've said, have access to this building that I live in. And they've told me various ways they access it: through the roof, through the main drain pipes, through going up underground access to nearby plumbing drains in the building, where they can carry their noise or equipment into certain areas, or even as I've shown before, enter various cubbies of the apartment from outside awnings and soffits and wind up in the above framing of the cabinetry and floorboards. This would also give them access to the gap area of the tub, the bathroom upstairs, and the floor, and as well as the ceiling of this bathroom here downstairs. Okay, so they have various ways to access your apartment. There's also, now this is just allegedly, for all I know, they could just be running noise equipment and PVC pipe, as I've demonstrated in other episodes. But just to make noise and make me think they're more closer than they actually are. So you just really don't know. In my situation, I cannot just go plowing into the wall because I'm a leasee. I can't just go boring in the floor because of that reason. It's disrespectful, and I could also get a property damaging charge if the damages are severe enough. There's gaps in people's townhouses, like this here. This is the electrical box, the fuse box. This light hasn't worked since last summer, and that just happens to be below the bathtub framing access that holds the tub upstairs in the upstairs bathroom. Any of this could be accessed. From this here, this awning, soffit, gutter area, which is an empty place of framing that goes all the way down the townhouse row and is an access area beneath the floorboards of the back bedrooms of these units. Let me show you something else. These are just possibilities, by the way. These are just various things that I've been told or that my stalkers have actually hinted at. Okay, if I had light here, there's an electrical box right here. Can't even see it. Anyhow, there's a cracked concrete slab. I'm going to come back with a flashlight and show you. It's a cracked concrete slab. It goes under the electrical box. It carries into an underground access and to the building for the main drains and pipes. Not sure why this one's cracked, or if other buildings have the same issue, or if it is even a true possibility that people could crawl in such access areas. Well, I'm just letting this out to let you know how ridiculous the psych-outs can be against targeted individuals that go through targeting of this magnitude. I'll get the flashlight. Okay. Let's go back here again. Okay, this is the crack in the concrete. It's broken up in several areas. This is the foundation for my electrical box here. The fuses have already had to been changed. The power companies had to come out for various surges just recently, as I've told you before. Allegedly, they claim that they can crawl under here somehow and get into some kind of drain access underneath the building. I have not pulled this apart to find out, as I'm afraid it would just simply incriminate me if I did, and you can never believe a damn thing that these people say. You got to keep that in mind. They're unbelievable. Also, I want to state, online devices can be used as points of focus hypnosis through eye tracking apps and programs and software that have been out for years. Things that focus our attention on TV screens, computer screens, etc. Anything that can capture our attention is another weapon that they can use against us by way of hypnosis and mind control. And also, another reason I don't go public so quickly with what evidence I do have of my harassment, of what people may be involved that I know for a fact are involved, is because I haven't gotten friendly responses from local law enforcement, who is the jurisdiction over this area, and there is none other. County refuses to handle this village, and I haven't gotten positive responses from them at any time, except for them to imply some sort of incrimination on me, it seemed. I don't know exactly who all may be involved outside of who I do know of. People have friends in high places and low places, and high places sink to low places pretty quick. So you just got to keep mindful and be careful and try not to do anything brash or out of line, and keep your wits about you as a TI and never give up the fight. Through voice apps and psych outs, some of the ways they'll come off are also equally ridiculous, if not more so, that they'll use on us TIs. For example, they have, through voice apps and other methods, claimed to be my dead relatives. They claim to be from the future on some space station. Oh my gosh, that was a good one. They'll actually use personal information to pretend they are your dead relatives by memory reversal, etc. They've claimed to be aliens. They've claimed to be out to turn me over, get me to turn to Jesus Christ and give up my occultic researches, saying I'm not a real cultist, I'm not a real Satanist, that they're into satanic unity, and I'm trying to upset that. My response to that is I don't believe in satanic unity. I believe in democracy, satanic independence, and American independence. I believe in independence. I believe in the Bill of Rights, the 10 Bill of Rights. I believe in the things that make this country great. And, I'm not for any organization of dictatorship or control, especially groups, criminal, governmental, or otherwise, that want to use these methods to drive people out of their mind and try to discredit them and, fight against free speech, the right to bear arms, and all the valuable rights, the right to privacy, the things that make our nation so great, that make it so diverse, where so many different types of peoples and nations can come together. People say this is what compares us to the old Roman Empire, and that's why we're called the New Rome. I believe that we have it way better than the Roman Empire. I believe, especially before we did, before this imperialist regime and lobbyists and corporate regime took hold of our government and our politics, I believe we were the shining emblem for democracy throughout the world. And it's because of our affluence toward democracy that so many other nations begin to open up channels to practice it in facets of their governments around the world. And we have lost, and our image is tarnished. Some power is out to destroy the old United States, old America, and the belief that we could continue to immigrate to this country and keep our cultures alive, yet all be Americans at the same time. Somewhere along those lines, They have attacked any individualized culture, any cultural recognition, designation, racial or otherwise, whether that's by blackballing it as racism or saying that the Black Panthers were a racist group. I feel that some of these organizations, including hippie organizations, were simply organizing their people in their community. And just because we're all diverse and different in this country doesn't mean we have to have an enemy between us. We can get along and recognize our differences as well as participate in the democracy that has made us so great a nation. So, we can continue to thrive our differences and our unity. But some reason, these lobbyists, these corporations, these politicians want to negate all these community efforts and dwindle them and relegate them to terrorist groups, to regime, pockets of, how can I put it, militants, when they're not really militant. Can they be militant at push? I believe all Americans can. And I believe all Americans have that right to be militant when the things that have preserved our nation are under threat to the extent they are today. They use diversion tactics in the media and broadcast to keep us misfocused off of the true issues of what's going on and what's causing our nation to continually go into a decline, and we're losing our national identity and what makes the beautiful diversity of America so great. And the reason why is they want to absolve us of any cultural designation outside of being a consumer, mindless, obedient, social civilization. We got to fight against this. We have to realize what has made our country so great is that we are so many different peoples with different ideas and backgrounds that have all come together to participate in this democracy, into this beautiful thing we call America. We don't have to fear one another. We don't have to fear the terrorists of other nations. What we have to fear is the terrorism being done upon our own people by way of mafia organizations and our own government, which are collaborating with corporations to bring the downfall of our civil liberties. There is a lot of local harassment still involved with my V2K, my voice to skull, and remote neural monitoring. This local harassment helps put more emphasis and effect on my mind manipulations that these guys are performing, these people. This is done locally via neighbors or people that have access in some way to my building, which is in a string of townhouses here in Georgetown. They can run equipment through floorboards. They can run equipment under bathtubs. They can run cameras. I've discussed all this before, the ways that they can survey us and do video and audio surveillance illegally on us. Through remote neural monitoring, when we go to sleep, they can reverse our memory, even implant things in it, to get information that will help them in their psych outs. The reason why is when you're asleep, it is similar, it's much easier to put you in a further state of hypnosis. And then they can interrogate you and question you as to answers and time periods where things have occurred and who people are and whose names they've picked up, you mentioning or people around you mentioning who those people are, where they're at, what they do, and then later use those without your knowledge when in your waking day to psych you out. This is a real phenomenon. You know, like I've said before, many people aren't buying it that TIs are experiencing this for real. However, we are. And in time, as time continues to go by, eventually, if not already, everybody's going to be remote neural monitored. Everybody's going to, and probably already has at some point. One thing they can do is affect the behavior and speech of those around you to further psych you out, just like they can get you to say certain things and instill those in subliminal frequency into your subconscious mind to provoke you to say things or similar enough things to what they want you to do that they feel powerful enough to have affected you sufficiently to their satisfaction. And they can do the same things with those around you and people around you, and make their perceptions of you seem sinister, so that they have issue or problem with you. They can taint you and taint your image and the view of others. And this is something that is not commonly known in the TI world even, but something I know they can do. I'm not going to try to prove that they can do it, but I will give you my word, I have witnessed it. And I know that they are capable of doing these things. I know this. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I'm not saying, hey, believe me, I'm the most awesome, believable guy. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to say I'm perfect or I've not made mistakes in my life. That as a result of my own personal choices, because everyone has. I'm saying at some point around the time that I told you is when my personal, just my independent mindset alone was more or less subjugated by remote neural tactics and gang stalking and subliminal frequency. Why would they do this to people around you? Well, for one, like I said, to incriminate you in their eyes, to cause controversy, as well as to influence their opinion and their mood toward you, and not only that, to further mess with your mind and drive you crazy. Don't fall for these tactics. Many TIs and remote neural monitor victims will not even have to experience that degree of psyching out. Unfortunately, I and some others have as well. And that's what they call intensive attacks, intensive repetition attacks on an individual to slowly break them down. The microwaves already have a bad enough effect on you. Okay, many people will not know or realize that their opinion of you is being influenced remotely. And do they do this to everybody every single day? Man, I sure hope not. And I sure don't know how they could possibly afford the man hours for that. But I do think that they do it mainly to people that are around targeted individuals involved in their daily lives. I absolutely believe this beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I want to warn other TIs of it. Thank you very much. This is William the Bastard Speaks. Good luck to everyone.